Welcome to Meet the Press Now. I'm Gabe Gutierrez in Washington as former President Donald Trump takes his campaign to a familiar place with familiar attack lines, even as his own allies warn he needs to refocus his message against Vice President Kamala Harris. Last night, the former president joined Elon Musk, the billionaire owner of X, who has endorsed him, for a lengthy, informal, and freewheeling conversation on Trump's once-favorite platform. After about 40 minutes of technical difficulties, the conversation went on for more than 2 hours. At times, more than 1 million people were tuned in. As the Trump campaign aims to reach an audience that frequently forgoes traditional media, those listening heard talking points similar to Trump's rallies as he leaned into immigration and claimed he's best suited to handle dictators on the world stage. All of it while attacking Vice President Harris as, quote, radical, and repeating his conspiracy theory that President Biden was forced out of the 2024 race against his will.
Our country is becoming a very dangerous place, and she is a radical left San Francisco liberal, and now she's trying to protect. Now she's looking like she wants to be more Trump than Trump, if that's possible. I don't think it's possible, but she wants to be more Trump than Trump. Yeah. She's a radical left lunatic, and if she's going to be our president, very quickly, you're not going to have a country anymore. What I can tell you is this. We cannot have a Democrat. We cannot have her. She's incompetent. She's as bad as Biden. This was a coup. This was a coup of a president of the United States. He didn't want to leave, and they said, we can do it the nice way or we can do it the hard way.
It comes as NBC News reports top Trump allies are privately and publicly putting pressure on the former president to refocus his message and stay away from personal attacks.
I think Donald Trump is going to better serve the country and better serve his own electoral prospects by focusing on his policy record and how his policy vision is different from Kamala Harris's.
The winning formula for President Trump is very plain to see. It's fewer insults, more insights, and that policy contrast.
Stop questioning the size of her crowds and start questioning her position when it comes to what did she do as Attorney General on crime. Question what did she do when she was supposed to take care of the border as a czar. Don't sit back, get out there and start making the case and use her own words to do it to her.
Allies are also urging Trump to ramp up the intensity of his campaign. He is set to hold a rally in North Carolina tomorrow, after only hitting the road once last week in Montana. But even without the former president himself on the trail, a pro-Trump super PAC is planning to put his message before voters, announcing a $100 million ad buy across 7 battleground states in the run-up to Labor Day. And on the Democratic side of the race, Vice President Harris has largely been out of sight this week after touring swing states with her running mate last week. And moments ago, Governor Walz wrapped up his first solo campaign event, speaking at a union convention in Los Angeles. So let's bring in my NBC News colleagues who are covering the presidential race. Garrett Haake is with me here on set. He's covering the Trump campaign, of course, and Mike Memoli is outside the White House. He's covering the Harris campaign. Garrett, I want to start with you. So this conversation between Elon Musk and Trump yesterday, look, the platform was, I guess, sort of new. You know, it's like kind of Trump revisiting Twitter, revisiting X. How has this conversation been received?
Well, I think within Trump world, they're reasonably happy with it. I mean, you basically had the rally speech on half-calf going out to an audience who's probably not ever going to go to a rally and certainly not ever going to see coverage of Trump on traditional media. That's a big part of their strategy. I mean, they firmly believe that there are enough sort of untapped would-be Trump voters out there who they just need to activate. I'm not convinced that anything he said in that conversation last night is particularly good at activating them, but you know that's a problem the campaign might not be able to solve. They're stuck with this candidate.
So, and Gary, you made that point before that they're trying to reach a sliver of the voting base. But look, anyone on that platform last night, were they not voting for Trump anyway?
That's the thing. Again, if you were inclined to vote, you're probably voting for Trump. But you got to remember, I mean, this is part of it. They think these are not necessarily like Republicans or sort of, this isn't like convincing a Nikki Haley Republican to be a Trump Republican. This is convincing somebody who doesn't care about this system, who doesn't care to vote, who's going to sit around and play video games otherwise and have their ex, you know, scrolling in the background, then maybe it might be worth the trouble to go out and vote. That's the audience of this.
You know, I was struck by Kellyanne Conway in the soundbite we just played. All this talk about his advisors trying to rein him in. Garrett, how many times have we heard that over the last...
Hundreds.
I mean, 8 years now. Is that going to work? Can he be reined in? Is this just Groundhog's Day that we keep hearing this?
Look, I mean, can he be changed? No. Can he be focused? Yes, we've seen it in the past. We saw it in 2016 after the Access Hollywood tape where he really dug in for the last couple weeks of that campaign and ultimately won. He is able to focus, and I think that's why you see people communicating with him on television, which is usually more effective than the behind-the-scenes calls or calling staff. That's where he gets his messages. He can focus, he can't change. And so I think before the convention, the Democratic convention, I don't think we're going to see anything different. Maybe he comes out of the gate afterwards with a little bit more oomph. Right. But, you know, beyond that, no, we're dealing with the same guy.
So he can focus, but can his advisors actually get him to focus, or it really has to come down to him? Then nobody can make him do anything.
I think that's mostly correct, yes. So, you can build the path for him, and he's got to decide if he's going to take it.
So he also mentioned that he's going to Butler, Pennsylvania in October. Is he hoping to kind of get a bump from that, potentially closer to the election, revive some of that goodwill following the assassination attempt?
I think clearly. I mean, look, the moment between surviving the assassination attempt and the speech that he gave, there'd be the first 30 minutes of that speech at his own convention, in my mind is kind of peak Trump, right? That was when his numbers were the best. Joe Biden's were absolutely cratering. He was riding a wave of goodwill after surviving this assassination attempt. If he can get a little bit of that juice back late in the campaign, I think it's something the campaign thinks would be helpful, and it gives him the opportunity to just keep talking about it between now and then.
And now to the Harris campaign and Mike Memoli, we saw them share clips of the conversation online, but what did the Harris campaign think of that conversation with Elon Musk?
Well, as you talk to Harris campaign advisors, they continue to be somewhat flummoxed, but happily so, by this idea that Donald Trump continues to speak to a core, largely already committed base of voters and has made almost no effort seemingly to expand beyond that base of support, to reach out to undecided, to swing voters. And they saw nothing in this conversation last night that changed their opinion of that. As the campaign put it in a statement afterwards, these are just two self-obsessed rich guys who would do anything to screw the middle class, as they put it in rather blunt terms. And so they, as far as they're concerned, want to continue to see the former president engage in this kind of campaign tactics. Yes, it's important to motivate your core supporters and to keep them motivated, but the concern all along has been whether or not Donald Trump would ever take the advice that Garrett is sharing, that so many Republicans are trying to get to the campaign, to campaign more publicly, to campaign more aggressively. And I don't think that necessarily they would mind seeing Donald Trump continue to engage in these kinds of discussions, especially because they're also fundraising off of this significantly, Gabe, as you know.
And Mike, we just mentioned it, but after a week of joint events, Governor Tim Walz just wrapped up his first solo event since becoming the vice president's running mate. He was speaking to union workers in L.A. What did we hear from the governor?
Well, this is such an important moment for Governor Walz. I know sometimes a week can feel like a month can feel like a day in these campaigns. It was just last week, of course, he was making his national introduction to the country as the running mate and largely getting high marks for the way in which he was able to play that traditional role of running mate with Kamala Harris on the road at those big, boisterous campaign events. Today, we saw him step into that traditional running mate role in a solo event, playing attack dog, talking about the qualities of the person he's running with, Kamala Harris, talking about her connection with working class individuals, talking about her own experience working at a McDonald's and joking, could you ever manage Donald Trump trying to operate a McFlurry machine? But because this is also his relative introduction to the American people, the campaign also thought it was important that he address some of these questions that have been raised, including by Republicans, about his military service and about whether he stepped aside from the National Guard ahead of his unit being deployed to Iraq. Listen to Governor Walz addressing this issue in a broad strokes.
These guys are even attacking me for my record of service. And I just want to say, I'm proud to have served my country. In 2005, I felt the call of duty again, this time of being service to my country in the halls of Congress. My students inspired me to run for that office, and I was proud to make it to Washington. I was a member of the Veterans Affairs Committee and a champion of our men and women in uniform. And I firmly believe you should never denigrate another person's service record. To anyone brave enough to put on that uniform for our great country, including my opponent, I just have a few simple words. Thank you for your service and sacrifice.
And so the record again here, Gabe, is important. Governor Walz was a member of the National Guard for 24 years. He was deployed in a number of settings, but never into combat. And yes, his unit was deployed ahead of when he retired, after he decided to retire from the service and run for Congress. He had already signed that paperwork to seek a congressional seat in Minnesota before his unit received their orders to deploy. And so the campaign wants to be mindful of this discussion and have the governor lay it out on his own terms and try to deal with this straight head on.
Mike Memoli, live for us outside the White House. Garrett Haake, live with me here on set. Thanks to you both. And turning now to another aspect of the 2024 race, the FBI is now saying it's investigating efforts to hack into the Trump and Biden-Harris campaigns. A source familiar with the matter tells NBC News that hackers targeted 3 Biden-Harris staffers. Although a Harris campaign official tells NBC News it does not appear those attempts were successful. Also, former Trump advisor Roger Stone told the Washington Post that authorities informed him that his email had been compromised. Over the weekend, the Trump campaign said it was hacked in June and suggested Iran was to blame. It came after Microsoft published a report on Friday about the tactics Iran is using to try to influence the 2024 election. I'm joined now by NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Dilanian. Ken, thanks so much for being here. How far along is this FBI investigation?
It's in its early stages, Gabe, and the FBI is not saying very much. They're not even saying if they've confirmed that this hack was linked to the government of Iran. But you just laid out the circumstantial facts as we know them. And it really does seem like the hack succeeded in obtaining some documents, because we have news organizations saying they received what appear to be confidential internal Trump campaign documents. And it appears, based on the Microsoft intelligence published on Friday, that there was an Iranian attempt to hack a unnamed political campaign. Microsoft has not said it was the Trump campaign, but connecting the dots here, this appears to be yet another example of a nation state trying to interfere in our policy.
Speaking of a nation state, you think your mind goes back to 2016 when a Russian intelligence agency, stole and released the emails from a senior Hillary Clinton advisor. How does this incident compare to that?
So the big difference here is that back then, those Russian hackers turned all that material over to WikiLeaks, which published it on the web for anyone to look at. So news organizations were not a filter there. It was out there. In this case, the hackers appear to have gone to select news organizations and offered them this material. And so far, they have not published it. They've not deemed it newsworthy. Actually, they found that the approach was more newsworthy than the material. And they're mindful of the fact that this may be a foreign intelligence operation. But that's not necessarily going to last. If more newsworthy stuff starts to come out, that's going to be a real dilemma for the media.
What do we know about how the campaigns are actually cooperating?
We know very little
with the investigation.
Yeah, that's a big question. There is reporting that the Trump team initially did not call in the FBI because they're distrustful of the FBI. That would have set the investigation back. I was told that they were talking yesterday, but that's not the same as allowing the FBI to look at their servers and their internal networks. Campaigns are generally reluctant to do that, and that is often a problem in these kinds of investigations. But I was told that the FBI is talking to the campaign and talking to Microsoft.
And how about the Harris campaign as well? Although we don't exactly know. The Harris campaign is saying that the hackers weren't successful, apparently, as far as we know.
That's right. They are saying they vigilantly monitor their networks for cyber intrusions, which suggests they're using a private vendor. And they're saying there's no evidence of any cyber breaches. They haven't said whether they're cooperating with the FBI.
And quickly, the Trump campaign, have they confirmed what the supposed documents were, the vetting documents for some of the VP candidates?
They haven't said it, but the news organizations have said that one included a 271-page document about J.D. Vance, but it apparently wasn't sexy enough for any of the news organizations to publish it.
All right. Ken Dilanian, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.